The fluorescent lights of the PC bang buzzed overhead like angry wasps, and Janae Winters wanted nothing more than to close her eyes and sleep for 3 days straight. But sleeping wasn't an option when you were 6 months pregnant, broke, and hiding from your ex-boyfriend who might also be a criminal. Or definitely was a criminal. The jury was still out on the might part, but Janae's gut, which had been right about everything except trusting Park Ji-hoon in the first place, told her she already knew the answer. She shifted in the worn gaming chair, trying to find a position that didn't make her lower back scream. At 6 months, her belly had gone from, is she pregnant or did she eat too much Korean BBQ, to definitely, obviously, undeniably pregnant. And her body was making her pay for every single choice that had led her to this moment. Her feet were swollen in her sneakers. Her spine felt like it was being slowly compressed by an invisible vice. And the baby, her daughter, according to the ultrasound she'd gotten at the free clinic, seemed to have decided that 2 a.m. was the perfect time for gymnastics practice. "Come on, little girl," Janny muttered under her breath, rubbing the side of her belly where a tiny foot or elbow was poking out. "Mama's trying to work here." Work. That was a generous term for what she was doing. Technically, she was supposed to be monitoring the overnight customers at the PC Bang, making sure no one was smoking in the booths or watching porn loud enough to disturb the gaming marathons happening in the next cubicle over. But mostly she was using the slow hours to dig through financial records she'd copied from Ji-hoon's laptop before everything went to hell. Janae had always been good with numbers. It was why she'd gotten a full ride to Georgia State, why she'd landed the DoD contracting job, why she thought she could make it in Seoul doing freelance forensic accounting. Numbers didn't lie. They didn't promise to love you and then disappear when you got pregnant. They didn't drug your drink at a business dinner and let their boss rape you while you were unconscious. Numbers just were. Clean, honest, predictable, and the numbers in Ji-hoon's files were screaming that he was in way deeper than some low-level import-export business. Wire transfers to shell companies in the Caymans. Suspicious cash deposits that lined up perfectly with dates she'd been asked to hold a package at her apartment. Transaction patterns that looked exactly like the money laundering cases she'd studied in her master's program. She'd been so stupid, so desperate to not be alone in a foreign country that she'd ignored every red flag waving in her face. The expensive gifts on a middling salary. The mysterious business trips to Busan. The way he'd always insisted on paying for everything in cash. The friends who looked at her like she was a pretty toy instead of a person. Her phone buzzed on the desk and Jenny's whole body tensed. It was 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Nobody texted good news at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. But it wasn't Ji-hoon. It was her brother Marcus, texting from Camp Humphreys. "Marcus, you still up? Jay." "Unfortunately. Baby thinks my bladder is a trampoline. Marcus, you doing okay though?" "For real?" Janae's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Was she okay? She was 6 months pregnant with a baby that might belong to the man who drugged her. She was working overnight at a PC Bang because she'd lost her freelance clients after rumors started spreading about her situation. She was living in a gozuwon the size of a closet because it was all she could afford, and she was building a case against her ex-boyfriend while praying he didn't find her before she could get to safety. "Jay, I'm fine. Stop worrying." "Marcus, that's not an answer and you know it." "Jay, I'm fine, Marcus, I promise. Just tired." "Marcus, I can come visit this weekend. Bring you some real food from the commissary." "Jay, you don't have to do that." "Marcus, I want to. You're my sister. And you're not fine, no matter what you say." Janae felt her throat tighten. She and Marcus had always been close, especially after their dad died. He was only 22, still just a kid in a lot of ways, but he'd stepped up when their mom had basically disowned Janae for embarrassing the family with an out-of-wedlock pregnancy in Korea. As if Janae had planned any of this. As if getting assaulted and impregnated was somehow her fault. "Jay, okay, Saturday?" "Marcus, Saturday. I'll text you when I'm on the way. Love you." "Jay, love you too." She set the phone down and took a deep breath. The baby shifted again, and Janae winced. She needed to pee. Again. For the 4th time this shift, being pregnant was like having the world's worst bladder infection, combined with the world's worst hangover, except it lasted 9 months and you couldn't even drink to cope with it. Janae hauled herself out of the chair, one hand on her lower back, and waddled toward the bathroom. The overnight manager, a tired-looking college student named Min-jun, who seemed to exist entirely on energy drinks and instant ramen, glanced up from his own gaming screen. "Break?" he asked in Korean. Bathroom, Janae replied, also in Korean. Again. He nodded sympathetically. Min Jun was one of the few people who'd been decent to her since the pregnancy started showing. He didn't ask questions, didn't make assumptions, just let her work her shifts and use the bathroom 17 times a night without complaint. The bathroom was small and dingy, with a flickering light that made Janae look even more exhausted than she felt. She caught her reflection in the spotted mirror and barely recognized herself. Her natural hair was pulled back in a messy bun because she hadn't had the energy for her usual protective style. Her face was puffy from lack of sleep and too much cheap ramyeon. Her eyes had dark circles that no amount of concealer could hide anymore. She looked exactly like what she was, a tired pregnant woman who was in way over her head. After washing her hands, Janae pulled out her phone again. She had a meeting scheduled with a Korean-American lawyer tomorrow. Well, today, technically, since it was almost 3 a.m. A former JAG officer who did pro bono work for military families and their dependents. Janae wasn't military and wasn't a dependent, but Marcus had pulled some strings, called in some favors, and gotten her on the guy's calendar. The lawyer had asked her to document everything, every transaction, every suspicious activity, every timeline detail, and he'd specifically asked for a photo with a timestamp to establish when she'd first started gathering evidence. Janae had taken a bathroom selfie at the clinic last week, just her in the mirror with her belly visible and the clinic's date stamp on the wall behind her. It was awkward and unglamorous, but it was proof. Proof that she was 6 months along. Proof that the timeline matched up with when Ji-hoon had introduced her to his business partners. At that dinner, she barely remembered. She scrolled through her phone to find the photo, then pulled up the lawyer's contact. His number was saved as safe exit, a little on the nose maybe, but Janae had learned to be literal when she was exhausted and couldn't afford to make mistakes. Her thumb hovered over the message button. She should probably wait until morning, send it during business hours like a normal person. But Janae was tired and scared, and the baby was kicking, and she just wanted this nightmare to be over. She attached the photo and recorded a quick voice memo, keeping her voice low so Min Jun wouldn't hear. I've got everything documented. Account numbers, routing codes, transaction timestamps. I'm 6 months pregnant and I can't keep hiding. I need extraction. Extraction? That was probably too dramatic, too military sounding, but it was the word that felt right. She wasn't just leaving Ji-hoon, she was escaping. Janae hit send before she could second-guess herself. The message showed as delivered immediately. She waited for the read receipt, but none came. The lawyer was probably asleep like a normal human being. She'd hear back from him in the morning. Janae shoved her phone in her pocket and headed back to her desk. 4 more hours until her shift ended. 4 more hours until she could go back to her tiny gosiwon and sleep for a few precious hours before the baby's gymnastics routine started up again. She was settling back into her chair, pulling up a spreadsheet to look busy, when her phone buzzed. 1 new message. That was fast. Maybe the lawyer was a night owl, too. Janae unlocked her phone and felt her stomach drop. The message wasn't from Safe Exit. It was from a number she didn't recognize. A Korean number with a Seoul area code. And the message in English was only 4 words. Bring her to me. Janae's hands started shaking. She clicked on the message thread, scrolling up to see what she'd sent. The photo was there. Her belly, the clinic date stamp, all of it. And above it a different contact name than the one she'd meant to text. Not Safe Exit. A number she'd typed into her phone weeks ago while tracking a suspicious wire transfer. A number she'd labeled with Korean characters. Onjun. Safety. But it wasn't her lawyer. It wasn't her safe exit. She'd sent her pregnancy photo and a plea for extraction to a complete stranger. Someone who had access to the same financial networks Ji-hoon used. Someone who'd responded in English, which meant they probably knew exactly who she was. And they wanted her brought to them. Oh, fuck, Janae whispered. Oh, fuck, fuck, fuck. The baby kicked hard, as if agreeing with the assessment. Janae stared at her phone, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. She should delete the message, block the number, pretend this never happened. But before she could do anything, 3 dots appeared. The stranger was typing. Another message came through. I'll send a car. Don't run. Janae stared at the message until the words blurred. I'll send a car. Don't run. Don't run. Like she had somewhere to run to. Like she hadn't spent the last 3 weeks sleeping in different places every night, using PC bangs and 24-hour cafes and friends' couches when she could find them. Like she hadn't already exhausted every escape route in this city. Her first instinct was to bolt anyway. grab her bag, walk out of this PC bang, and disappear into the soul night. But she was 6 months pregnant, exhausted, and her feet were so swollen she could barely fit them into her shoes. Running wasn't exactly an option anymore. Besides, whoever this was had found her at work, which meant they knew where she was right now, which meant running would just delay the inevitable and probably make things worse. Janny's forensic accounting brain kicked into gear, the same way it always did when she was scared. Break it down, analyze, find the pattern. She pulled up her notes app and scrolled back to 3 weeks ago when she'd been tracking Ji-hoon's money. She'd found a wire transfer, $50,000 moving from one of his shell companies to an account in Seoul. She'd traced the receiving account to a business called Yoon Security Consulting. She'd saved the contact number from the business registration, labeled it Anjun, because her Korean autocorrect had been acting up and she'd been too tired to fix it. Yoon Security Consulting. She pulled up a browser on the PC Bang computer and searched the name. The results were interesting. And by interesting, she meant terrifying. Yoon Security Consulting had a legitimate-looking website, corporate headquarters in Gangnam, international clients, professional photos of men in suits standing in front of glass buildings. All very official and boring, but when Janae dug deeper into business forums, into Korean news articles, she ran through translation, apps, she found the whispers. Yoon Security Consulting was a front. The Yoon family wasn't in security, they were in everything else. Protection rackets, port control in Busan, the kind of consulting that involved making your competitors' problems disappear permanently. And she just sent them a photo of her pregnant belly and asked for extraction like she was some kind of intelligence asset. Oh my God, Janae muttered, I'm so stupid. I'm so fucking stupid. The baby kicked again, harder this time, like she was trying to physically shake some sense into her mother. Janny pressed her hand to her belly, taking slow breaths. Panicking wouldn't help. Panicking never helped. Think. What did the message say? Bring her to me. Not, we're coming to kill you. Not, you're dead. Just, bring her to me. Which implied they wanted her alive, wanted to talk to her, maybe even thought she was someone else, someone valuable enough to summon in the middle of the night. Janae pulled up the original photo she'd sent, the bump photo, the timestamp, the voice memo about account numbers and routing codes and extraction. If she'd been on the receiving end of that message, what would she think? She'd think she was being contacted by someone who had financial intelligence, someone who was pregnant and scared and looking for protection, someone who knew things worth knowing. Maybe that's exactly what this Yoon person thought. Maybe they thought she was defecting from Ji-hoon's organization. Maybe they thought she had valuable information to trade, which technically she did. She had everything, every transaction, every shell company, every dirty deal Ji-hoon had been running for the past 8 months. She'd memorized most of it. Photographic memory was great for tests, and terrible for trying to forget your ex-boyfriend was a criminal, and she had copies saved in 3 different encrypted cloud accounts. A car pulled up outside the PC Bang. Janae could see it through the window, a black sedan with tinted windows, expensive looking, the kind of car that didn't belong in this neighborhood at 3 a.m. unless someone was either very rich or very dangerous. Probably both. The car idled. Nobody got out. It just sat there, waiting. Janae's phone buzzed. The car is outside. Get in. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. Min-jun looked up from his computer, frowning. You okay? He asked in Korean. Yeah, Janae lied, also in Korean. Just, I have to go. Family emergency. It wasn't technically a lie. This was definitely an emergency, and if she died tonight, Marcus would be very upset, so it kind of involved family. Min-jun nodded, already turning back to his game. See you tomorrow? Sure, Janae said, knowing she had no idea if there would be a tomorrow for her. See you tomorrow. She grabbed her bag, a worn backpack containing her laptop, a change of clothes, and the pepper spray Marcus had given her that she'd never actually used, and walked toward the door on legs that felt like they might give out any second. The night air hit her face, cold and sharp. November in Seoul was brutal, and Janny's lightweight jacket wasn't nearly warm enough. She wrapped her arms around her belly, partly for warmth and partly because it felt like the only protective gesture she had left. The car's back door opened. Not from the inside. Someone got out first. A woman. Tall, professional-looking, wearing a tailored black pantsuit and an expression that suggested she'd seen everything and been impressed by none of it. Her hair was cut short, practical, and she moved with the kind of efficiency that screamed military or law enforcement background. "Janae Winters?" the woman asked in English, her accent crisp and precise. Janae's heart stuttered. They knew her name. Of course they knew her name. They probably knew everything about her. "Who's asking?" Janae replied, proud that her voice came out steadier than she felt. The woman's expression didn't change. "Someone who received a very interesting message tonight. Get in the car. And if I don't? Then you stand here in the cold, pregnant and alone, and wait for Park Ji-hoon to find you instead. Your choice." Janae's blood went cold. They knew about Ji-hoon, which meant they'd done their homework fast, which meant they had resources, which meant she was either getting into this car or she was dead anyway. "Who are you?" Janae asked. "Min Seo-yoon. I work for the person you contacted tonight. Now get in the car before you catch pneumonia, and I have to explain to my boss why his asset is sick." Asset. There it was. They thought she was valuable. That was good. Valuable people didn't get killed immediately. Valuable people got questioned first. Janae walked to the car, each step feeling like she was walking toward either salvation or a very well-dressed execution. Seo-yoon held the door open and Janae slid into the back seat. The interior smelled like leather and expensive cologne. The seats were heated. Classical music played softly from hidden speakers. Seo-yoon got in after her, and the car pulled away from the curb before Janae could even put her seatbelt on. "Where are we going?" Janae asked. "Bukchon," Seo-yoon replied. "Our employer wants to meet you." "Your employer have a name?" "You'll find out when we arrive." Janae looked out the window, watching the Seoul streets blur past. They were heading north toward the traditional Hanok district. Rich neighborhood, old money. The kind of place where you could buy a house for several $1,000,000 and still have neighbors who'd lived there for 5 generations. "Am I going to die tonight?" Janae asked, surprising herself with the bluntness of the question. Seo-yoon glanced at her, and for the first time something that might have been amusement flickered across her face. "If my boss wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. He doesn't waste time on transportation." "That's comforting." "It should be. You sent him a very interesting proposition. He's curious." "I didn't send him anything. It was a mistake." "Was it?" Seo-yoon's eyes were sharp, assessing. "You sent a photo, a voice memo requesting extraction, and evidence of financial knowledge that suggests you have access to Park Ji-hoon's operations. That's not a mistake. That's either a very clever play or a very stupid accident." "It was an accident," Janae insisted. "I was trying to contact my lawyer." "Your lawyer?" "The JAG officer at Camp Humphreys." Janae's stomach dropped. They knew about the lawyer, too. They'd done a full background check in less than an hour. "We know about your brother, too," Seo-yoon continued, her tone conversational. "Marcus Winters, specialist, 35F intel analyst. Good soldier, protective. Probably very worried about his pregnant sister working overnight shifts in Ida 1. Leave my brother out of this. We're not interested in your brother. We're interested in you, and what you know about Park Ji-hoon's operations." The car turned into a narrow street lined with traditional Hanok houses, their curved roofs elegant against the night sky, but they didn't stop at the tourist-friendly Hanoks. They drove deeper, into a section where the houses got bigger, the walls got higher, and the security cameras got more numerous. Finally, they pulled up to a gate. Solid wood, reinforced with metal, flanked by stone walls that looked like they'd been standing for 100 years. The gate opened automatically, someone was watching, and the car slid through into a courtyard that was somehow both beautiful and terrifying. The main house was a renovated Hanok, all traditional architecture on the outside, with what Janae suspected was very modern everything on the inside. Lights glowed from behind paper screens. A garden stretched to one side, perfectly manicured even in November. And standing at the entrance, backlit by warm interior light, was a man. Tall. Well over 6 feet, which was unusual for a Korean man. Lean build, but Janae could see the muscle even through his expensive-looking sweater and slacks. Sharp features, high cheekbones, dark hair styled back from his face, and eyes that were currently studying her with the kind of focus that made Janae feel like she was being cataloged, assessed, and filed away for future reference. This was him. The person she had accidentally texted. The person who'd said, "Bring her to me." Seo-yoon opened Janae's door. Out. Janae climbed out of the car, one hand on the doorframe for balance, the other cradling her belly. The man's eyes flicked to her stomach, then back to her face. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. Recognition, maybe. Or calculation. "Janie Winters," he said in English, his accent barely noticeable. "I'm Yoon Tae-sung. You sent me a very interesting message tonight." Janae lifted her chin, refusing to be intimidated even though her heart was trying to break out of her chest. "I sent it. To the wrong number. It was meant for my lawyer." "So Seo Yoon tells me, but you sent it to me instead. Which means we should talk." "About what?" "About Park Ji-hoon, about the financial records you claim to have, and about why you think you need extraction." Tae-sung stepped aside, gesturing to the open door behind him. An invitation, or a command. With men like this, it was hard to tell the difference. "You can come inside and we can have a civilized conversation," Tae-sung continued, his tone almost pleasant. "Or you can stand in my courtyard until you catch cold, and I have to explain to Seo Yoon why I let a pregnant woman freeze. Your choice." Janae looked at the house. At Seo Yoon standing silent and intimidating beside the car, at Tae-sung, who was watching her with eyes that missed nothing. She thought about Ji-hoon, about the baby growing inside her, about Marcus and the life she'd left behind in Atlanta, and the mess she'd made of everything. And she thought, I've already sent the message. Already walked into the PC Bang, already gotten in the car, already arrived at this house. Might as well see it through. "Fine," Janae said, walking toward the entrance. "But if you're going to kill me, at least let me use the bathroom first. I've needed to pee since the car ride started." Behind her, she heard Seo Yoon make a sound that might have been a laugh. Tae-sung's expression didn't change, but his eyes did, just a flicker of what might have been amusement or respect or both. "First door on the left," he said, stepping aside to let her pass. "We'll talk after." Janae walked into Yoon Tae-sung's house, 6 months pregnant and terrified and angry and so tired. And somewhere in the back of her mind, the same instinct that had kept her alive this long whispered, "This is either the biggest mistake of your life or the only thing that's going to save you." She just wasn't sure which one yet. The bathroom was nicer than Janae's entire Goziwan. Heated floors, a toilet with more buttons than her laptop, soft lighting that didn't make her look like a corpse. She caught her reflection in the mirror, expensive mirror, probably cost more than her rent, and took a moment to just breathe. Her hands were still shaking. She gripped the edge of the marble sink and counted to 10, then 20, then gave up on counting and just focused on not throwing up. She was in a crime lord's house. She'd accidentally texted a crime lord, and now she was about to have a civilized conversation with said crime lord about financial records and extraction, and God knew what else. "You're so stupid, Jay," she whispered to her reflection. "So incredibly stupid." The baby kicked and Janae pressed her hand to her belly. I know. Mama's doing her best here." She used the bathroom because she really did have to pee, and if she was going to die tonight, she'd rather not do it with a full bladder, and then washed her hands with soap that probably cost more than her weekly grocery budget. The towels were soft. Everything in this bathroom was soft and expensive, and completely at odds with the terror currently flooding through Janae's system. She couldn't hide in here forever. Eventually, she'd have to go back out there and face Yoon Tae-sung and whatever he wanted from her. Janae dried her hands, straightened her jacket, and walked back into the main room. The interior of the Hanok was exactly what she'd expected. Traditional architecture meeting modern luxury. Exposed wooden beams. Paper screen doors that probably slid open to reveal rooms she couldn't see. Minimalist furniture that looked both ancient and contemporary. Art on the walls that Janae's art history minor recognized as expensive. Tae-sung was sitting at a low table, the kind meant for traditional Korean dining. There was tea already poured. 2 cups. Seo Yoon stood near the door, arms crossed, still looking like she could kill someone with her bare hands and not break a sweat. "Sit," Tae-sung said, gesturing to the cushion across from him. Janae hesitated. Sitting on the floor while 6 months pregnant wasn't her idea of a good time. Her balance was already questionable, and getting back up would be a whole production. Tae-sung seemed to read her mind. "There's a chair," he said, nodding to a modern chair position near the table. "Seo Yoon, bring it closer." Seo Yoon moved the chair without comment, and Janae sat down gratefully. At least if she needed to run, she wouldn't have to haul herself up from the floor first. Tae-sung pushed one of the teacups toward her. "Ginger tea, good for nausea." "I'm not nauseous." "You look nauseous." "I look tired. There's a difference." His lips twitched, almost a smile. Almost. Fair enough. Janny didn't touch the tea. She wasn't stupid enough to drink anything a crime lord offered her, even if it smelled incredible, and her stomach was actually kind of queasy. Taesung noticed. Of course he noticed. Men like this noticed everything. It's not poisoned, he said. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. Seo Yoon already told you this? Forgive me for being cautious, I've had a bad few months. So I gathered. Taesung leaned back slightly, his posture relaxed but his eyes still sharp. Tell me about Park Ji-hoon. Why? Because you sent me a message claiming to have financial records. Because you're 6 months pregnant and working overnight at a PC Bang in Itaewon. Because you asked for extraction like you're running from something. I'd like to know what. Janae studied him. He was watching her the same way she watched spreadsheets, looking for patterns, inconsistencies, the story behind the numbers. And she realized he thought she was someone else. Someone important. Someone worth this much attention. You think I'm involved in Ji-hoon's business? Janae said slowly. You think I'm defecting or something? Are you? No, I'm just an accountant who dated the wrong guy. Taesung's expression didn't change. Accountants don't usually have access to the kind of financial information your voice memo suggested, and they don't usually ask for extraction. I'm a forensic accountant. It's literally my job to find financial information people don't want found. And I said extraction because my brother's military and I've been watching too many spy movies. I meant I need help getting away from my psycho ex-boyfriend. Park Ji-hoon is more than a psycho ex-boyfriend. Yeah, I figured that out. Thanks. Seo Yoon made a sound from the doorway. Taesung shot her a look and she went silent again, but Janae caught the hint of amusement on her face. Taesung turned back to Janae. Tell me how you met him. Janae sighed. She was tired, she was scared, and she was starting to realize that the only way out of this room was through honesty, or at least enough honesty to satisfy Yoon Tae-sung's curiosity. I met him 8 months ago at an expat meetup in Itaewon, she said. I was freelancing, looking for clients. He said he worked in import-export and needed someone to help with international transactions. Seemed legitimate. We started dating. She paused, hating herself for what she was about to admit. He was charming, attentive, said all the right things. And you believed him. I was lonely. I'd been in Seoul for 2 years, and everyone I knew was either military or had gone back to the States. So yeah, I believed him. I believed him when he said he loved me. I believed him when he introduced me to his business partners. I believed him right up until I woke up in a hotel room 6 months ago with no memory of the night before and a feeling that something was very, very wrong. Taesung's expression shifted slightly. Not sympathy. Men like him didn't do sympathy, but something close to understanding. He drugged you. Yeah. Took me 2 months to figure out I was pregnant. By then he was gone. Disappeared. Blocked my number? I went to his apartment and it was empty. And the financial records? Janae smiled bitterly. Before he disappeared, I'd copied his laptop. I'm an accountant. I'm nosy about money. I thought I was just satisfying my curiosity about whether he was actually making as much as he claimed. Instead, I found shell companies, wire transfers, and transaction patterns that screamed money laundering. So I kept digging, and I found more. A lot more. Taesung was silent for a moment, processing. Janae could practically see the calculations happening behind his eyes. You have copies of Park Ji-hoon's financial records, he said finally. I have copies of everything. Account numbers, routing codes, shell company registrations, transaction histories. I memorized most of it. Why? Because I have a photographic memory and because I'm stubborn. Also because I figured if I was going to report him to the authorities, I needed evidence they couldn't ignore. And have you reported him? Not yet. I was trying to get to a lawyer first, make sure I was protected. Hence the message you intercepted. Taesung picked up his own teacup, took a sip, set it down with precise care. Park Ji-hoon works for the Hwang family. They're competitors of mine. Congratulations? It's not a congratulation, it's context. If you have Ji-hoon's financial records, you have information about Hwang operations. That makes you valuable. I'm not an asset, Janae said sharply. I'm a person. A pregnant person who just wants to get through the next 3 months without getting killed. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. Janae laughed, short and bitter. You want my information. You want me to trade what I know about Ji-hoon for protection. That's what this is, right? That's why you brought me here instead of just, I don't know, ignoring a random text message. I don't ignore anything, especially not messages that land in my phone at 3 a.m. with evidence of Huang family operations. So what now? You extract the information from me and then what? I go back to my Gosiwan and hope Ji-hoon doesn't find me? Taesung set down his teacup. I'm offering you a deal. I didn't ask for a deal. You asked for extraction, protection, safety. I can provide that. In exchange, you provide me with everything you know about Park Ji-hoon's operations. Janae stared at him. You're offering to protect me. Why? Because you have information I want, and because Park Ji-hoon works for people I'd very much like to damage. So I'm just a tool, a weapon you can use against your enemies. You're a pregnant woman with nowhere else to go who accidentally stumbled into the middle of a war she doesn't understand. I'm offering you a way out. Whether you take it is your choice. Janae wanted to throw the tea in his face. She wanted to stand up and walk out and pretend this entire night had never happened. But she was 6 months pregnant, exhausted, scared, and completely out of options. Marcus couldn't help her. Not really. Not against people like this. Her lawyer might be able to get her some kind of witness protection, but that would take time she didn't have. And Yoon Tae-sung was sitting here, calm and controlled, offering her exactly what she'd asked for in that stupid voice memo. Protection, safety, a way out. If I give you the information, Janae said slowly, what happens to me? You stay here, under my protection, until the baby is born, at minimum. And after? That depends on whether you're still useful to me. The honesty was almost refreshing. At least he wasn't pretending to be her savior. At least he was being clear about the transaction. I need guarantees, Janae said. I need to know my brother won't be touched. I need to know I'm not just trading one dangerous man for another. Your brother is military. I don't touch military unless they touch me first. As for trading one dangerous man for another, Taesung's expression was unreadable. I am dangerous. I won't pretend. Otherwise. But I keep my agreements, and I don't hurt pregnant women. How noble. It's not nobility, it's practicality. Dead informants can't provide information. Janny rubbed her belly, feeling the baby shift. Her daughter. Her little girl who deserved better than a mother who kept making terrible decisions. But what choice did she have? Stay on the run until Ji-hoon found her? Hope the lawyer could help before something went wrong? Or take the devil's bargain sitting across from her and at least have a roof over her head while she figured out her next move? I want to see where I'd be staying, Janae said. And I want your word, actually your word, not just some vague promise that my brother doesn't get involved in whatever this is. Taesung nodded. Seo-yun, show her the guest house. Seo-yun moved from her position by the door. This way. Janae stood up slower than she wanted to and followed Seo-yun through a sliding door and into a covered walkway that led to a smaller building at the back of the compound. The guest house was traditional on the outside, but modern on the inside. Heated floors, a real bed, a bathroom with a shower that looked like it actually had good water pressure. You'd have privacy, Seo-yun said. Meals provided. Medical care if needed. Security. Security meaning guards, or security meaning I'm a prisoner? Both. You'd be protected. You'd also not be allowed to leave without permission. So, a prisoner? A protected asset. Seo-yun's expression softened slightly. Look, I get it. This isn't ideal, but if you're smart, and I think you are, you'll realize this is better than the alternatives. Park Ji-hoon is looking for you. The Huang family doesn't let loose ends dangle. You're a loose end. And what am I to Yoon Tae-sung? Right now, potentially useful. Tomorrow? Depends on what you know and whether you're telling the truth. Janae looked around the guest house. It was nicer than anywhere she'd lived in the past 3 months. Hell, it was nicer than most places she'd lived in the past 3 years. And the bed looked comfortable. And she was so tired. I need to think about it, Janae said. You have until sunrise, Seo-yun replied. After that, the offer expires and you're back on your own. They walked back to the main house. Taesung was still sitting at the table, looking like he had all the time in the world, like it was completely normal to be negotiating with a pregnant stranger at 4 a.m. Well, he asked. I need to think about it, Janny repeated. You have until sunrise. Seo Yun will take you back to the guest house. There's a phone on the table. It only calls 2 numbers. Mine and Seo Yun's. If you need anything, call. If you decide to take the deal, call. If you decide to leave. He paused. The gate will open for you. You're not a prisoner. Not yet. Not yet. The words hung in the air, a promise and a threat all at once. Janae followed Seo Yun back to the guest house. She'd take any illusion of control she could get right now. A knock on the door made her jump. Ms. Winters, are you awake? Seo Yun's voice. Crisp, professional, probably annoyed that Janae had slept past dawn like a normal, exhausted pregnant person. Yeah, Janae called back. Give me a minute. She hauled herself off the bed. Why was getting up so much harder when you were pregnant? And made her way to the bathroom. Her reflection looked slightly less corpse-like this morning, probably because she'd actually slept for more than 2 hours straight. Her hair was a disaster, still in the messy bun from yesterday, and she needed a shower desperately. But Seo Yun was waiting, and Janae had learned in her brief time dealing with criminals that you didn't keep dangerous people waiting. She opened the door to find Seo Yun holding a tray of food. Actual food. Rice, soup, side dishes, and what looked like grilled mackerel. The kind of breakfast Janae hadn't been able to afford in months. Eat, Seo Yun said, setting the tray on the low table. The doctor will be here at 10. Mr. Yun wants to meet with you at 11. Does Mr. Yun always schedule his interrogations so precisely? Seo Yun's lips twitched, almost a smile. He schedules everything precisely. It's why he's still alive. Eat. You're too thin. I'm 6 months pregnant. I'm not thin. You're thin everywhere except your belly? When did you last have a real meal? Janae couldn't remember. She sat down at the table and picked up the chopsticks. The food was incredible, perfectly seasoned, still warm, the kind of home cooking she'd missed desperately since leaving Atlanta. She tried to eat slowly to maintain some dignity, but she was so hungry that dignity lasted about 30 seconds before she was just shoveling rice into her mouth like she hadn't eaten in days, which honestly, she kind of hadn't. Not real food anyway. Convenience store kimbap and instant ramyun didn't count. Seo Yun watched her eat with an expression that might have been approval or pity. Hard to tell. Your things are in the bedroom, Seo Yun said. I retrieved them this morning from your gosiwon. The laptop is on the desk. Janae looked up surprised. You went to my place? At 6 a.m. You weren't using it. And Mr. Yun wanted to make sure you had access to your files. Of course he did. Janae took another bite of mackerel. He wants his information. He wants to verify you're telling the truth. There's a difference. Not much of one. Seo Yun crossed her arms, studying Janae with those sharp, assessing eyes. You don't trust easily. I trusted the wrong person. It didn't work out well for me. Park Ji-hoon is an idiot and a coward. Mr. Yoon is neither. Mr. Yoon is a crime lord. Yes, and he's very good at it, which is why you're safer here than anywhere else in Seoul right now. Seo Yun moved toward the door. The doctor will be here soon. Be ready. She left before Janae could respond. Janae finished her breakfast, then went to explore what Seo Yun had brought from her gosiwon. Her clothes, all 3 changes of them, were neatly folded on the bed. Her laptop was on the desk, closed, probably already examined by someone who knew what they were doing. Her toiletries were in the bathroom, arranged with more care than Janae had ever arranged them herself. It was both thoughtful and invasive, which seemed to be the theme of everything in this place. Janae showered, grateful for the water pressure and the fact that the bathroom was heated. She put on clean clothes, leggings, and an oversized Georgia State sweatshirt that used to be her dad's, and pulled her hair into a fresh bun. She looked almost human. Almost. The doctor arrived exactly at 10, escorted by Seo Yun. He was older, maybe 60, with kind eyes and hands that moved with practiced efficiency. He spoke to her in English, asking questions about her pregnancy, her symptoms, her medical history. He did an ultrasound with a portable machine, and Janae watched her daughter move on the screen, tiny and perfect, and completely unaware that her mother had made a deal with dangerous people to keep them both alive. She looks healthy, the doctor said, smiling. Good size for gestational age. Heart rate is strong. Have you been experiencing any complications? Just the usual. Tired all the time. Back pain. My feet swell if I stand too long. That's normal, but you're underweight. You need to eat more and rest more. Stress isn't good for the baby. Janae almost laughed. Stress. Right, because her life was so low stress right now. The doctor left her with prenatal vitamins and instructions to eat 3 meals a day and get at least 8 hours of sleep. Junai thanked him, knowing she'd manage maybe half of that if she was lucky. At 11 exactly, Seo Yoon appeared again. "Mr. Yoon is ready." Johnny followed her through the covered walkway back to the main house. In the daylight, the compound was even more impressive. Traditional architecture maintained with obvious care, gardens that probably looked stunning in spring, and security cameras disguised so well Janae almost missed them. Almost. Taesung was in a different room this time. An office modern and minimal, with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out onto the garden. He was sitting behind a desk that probably cost more than Janae's entire college education, wearing a suit that fit him so perfectly it had to be custom-tailored. He looked up when she entered, his dark eyes taking her in with the same calculating assessment as last night. "Ms. Winters, the doctor says you're healthy. The doctor says I need to eat more and stress less. I'm working on the first part. Sit." He gestured to a chair across from his desk. Not a floor cushion this time. He'd remembered her balance issues, points for observation skills. Janae sat. Seo Yun remained standing by the door, silent and watchful. Taesung opened a laptop on his desk and turned it to face Janae. The screen showed a photograph of Ji-hoon. Candid shot, looked like surveillance footage. He was walking out of a building in Gangnam, phone to his ear, looking stressed. "This was taken yesterday," Taesung said. "He's looking for you." "Yeah, I got a text this morning. Blocked the number." "He'll get another, and another, until he finds you or gives up. Men like Ji-hoon don't give up. They just get more desperate." "Agreed. Which is why I need to know everything you know about his operations, starting with the financial records you claim to have." Johnny pulled her laptop out of her bag and opened it. She navigated to her encrypted cloud storage, logged in with 3 separate passwords, and pulled up the files she'd been compiling for weeks. Spreadsheets, bank statements, wire transfer records, shell company registrations, everything. She turned her laptop to face Taesung. "This is 8 months of financial data." Ji-hoon was sloppy. He used his personal laptop for business, didn't encrypt anything properly, and kept physical copies of documents in his apartment. "I photographed everything before he disappeared." Taesung leaned forward, his eyes scanning the screen. His expression didn't change, but Janae saw the way his fingers tapped once on the desk, that same gesture she'd noticed last night. He was thinking, calculating. "This is Hwang family money," he said quietly. "Yeah, I figured that out when I saw the volume. Ji-hoon wasn't making this kind of money on his own." "The shell companies, you trace them?" 3 layers deep, they're laundering through legitimate businesses in Singapore and Hong Kong, moving money from Seoul to the Caymans, then back through investment funds. Classic setup. Taesung looked at her, and for the first time she saw something that might have been respect in his eyes. "You did this yourself?" "I'm a forensic accountant. This is literally what I'm trained to do." Janae clicked through to another spreadsheet. "I also found transaction patterns that suggest they're moving more than just money. There are payments to shipping companies in Busan that don't match up with any legitimate cargo manifests." "Smuggling?" "That'd be my guess. What they're smuggling, I don't know. But the timing and amounts suggest regular shipments every 2 weeks." Taesung sat back, his fingers tapping again. Janae could practically see the calculations happening behind his eyes. This information was valuable. More valuable than she'd realized when she was compiling it. "You've been building a case," Taesung said, "against Ji-hoon, against the Hwang family. I was building evidence for the authorities. I wanted him arrested. I wanted—" Janae paused, her hand moving unconsciously to her belly. "I wanted justice, or at least protection. I knew if I reported him, I'd need proof they couldn't ignore. The authorities can't protect you from the Hwang family. They have judges, prosecutors, police on their payroll. Any case you brought would disappear before it reached a courtroom. And you can protect me? I can do what the authorities can't. I can make sure Ji-hoon and the Hwang family have more pressing concerns than one pregnant accountant." Janae studied him. He was being honest. She could see it in his face, hear it in his tone. He wasn't promising salvation or safety in any permanent sense. He was promising distraction, damage control, a strategic repositioning that would make her less of a priority. It wasn't reassuring, but it was probably the truth. "What do you want me to do?" Janae asked. "Work for me. Use your skills to track Hwang operations. find their weaknesses, help me build a case, not for the authorities, but for myself. You want me to be your forensic accountant. I want you to be exactly what you are, someone who's very good at finding money trails, someone who has access to information I need, someone who has every reason to want Park Ji-hoon and the Hwang family damaged as badly as I do. Janae looked at her laptop screen, at the spreadsheets she'd compiled while hiding in PC bangs and convenience stores and anywhere Ji-hoon couldn't find her. She'd done this work for justice, for protection, for some sense that the man who drugged her and abandoned her would face consequences. And now Yoon Tae-sung was offering her a different kind of justice. Not legal, not clean, but possibly more effective. If I do this, Janae said slowly, I'm complicit. I'm not just a victim anymore. I'm actively participating in whatever this is. Whatever you do with this information. Yes. No sugarcoating, no pretense. Just the truth. Janae thought about her daughter, about the life she wanted to give her, about the fact that hiding forever wasn't sustainable, and hoping the legal system would protect her was probably naive. I want guarantees, she said. I want to know that when this is over, when you've done whatever you're planning to do with this information, I can walk away, me and my daughter. No strings, no obligations. When it's over, you're free to go. You have my word. And your word is worth something? In my world, it's worth everything. I don't make promises I can't keep. Janae searched his face for any sign of deception, but Tae-sung's expression was as controlled as ever, no tells, no micro-expressions, nothing to indicate whether he was lying or telling the truth, but something in her gut, the same instinct that had warned her about Ji-hoon, that had kept her alive these past few months, told her that Yoon Tae-sung was different. Dangerous, yes. Criminal, absolutely, but also honest in a way Ji-hoon had never been. He told her what he wanted, what he could offer, what the cost would be. That was worth something. Maybe even worth the risk. Okay, Janae said. I'll do it. I'll help you track Hwang operations, but on one condition. Which is? You teach me Korean, real Korean. Not textbook Korean, the kind people like. You speak. The kind I'll need to survive if this all goes sideways. Tae-sung's eyebrows rose slightly. You already speak Korean. I speak enough to get by? I want to speak enough to understand every word people say when they think I can't understand them. For the first time since she'd met him, Yoon Tae-sung smiled. It was small, barely visible, but it was there. Deal, he said. Seo Yoon will set you up in the office next door. You'll have access to my financial databases. Anything you need to track Hwang operations, you ask for. And we start Korean lessons tomorrow. You're teaching me yourself? I don't trust anyone else to do it properly. Janae stood up slower than she wanted to and extended her hand across the desk. Tae-sung looked at it for a moment, then stood and shook it. His grip was firm, controlled, and his hand was warmer than she expected. Welcome to Yoon Security Consulting, Ms. Winters, he said. Call me Jay. If we're going to be working together, you might as well use my actual name. Jay? He tested the name, his English pronunciation perfect. Then you should call me Tae-sung, at least in private. That seems overly familiar for a business arrangement. This stopped being just a business arrangement the moment you walked into my house pregnant and terrified, still brave enough to negotiate. We're partners now. Or close enough. Partners. The word hung in the air between them, weighted with implications Janae wasn't ready to examine. She was 6 months pregnant, working for a crime lord and teaching herself to survive in a world she'd never wanted to be part of. But she was alive, and her daughter was safe, and Park Ji-hoon was about to have much bigger problems than finding one accountant who disappeared into the Seoul night. That was worth something, maybe even worth the cost. The office Seo Yoon set up for Janae was small but efficient. A desk with 2 monitors, a comfortable chair that didn't make her back scream, a window that looked out onto the garden, and most importantly, a door that locked from the inside. Janae appreciated the door. It meant she had some illusion of privacy, even if she knew Tae-sung probably had cameras everywhere. She spent the first 3 days doing what she did best, following the money. Tae-sung had given her access to databases she probably shouldn't have been able to access, tracking software that was definitely illegal, and financial records that painted a very clear picture of the Hwang family's operations. They were bigger than she'd realized, more sophisticated. Ji-hoon was barely a footnote in their organization, a mid-level money mover who'd been useful until he'd gotten sloppy. Getting his girlfriend pregnant and then losing track of her? That was the kind of sloppiness that got people killed in this world. Janae was methodically documenting everything when her office door opened without warning. She looked up, ready to tell Seo Yun that knocking was a thing people did, and found herself staring at a child instead. A little girl, maybe 8 or 9, with straight black hair and 2 neat pigtails and wearing a school uniform. She had large, expressive eyes that were currently studying Janae with the kind of intense curiosity only children possessed. "You're the American lady," the girl said in Korean. Johnny blinked. Yes? Uncle said there was an American lady staying here, but Aunt Mi-jin said I wasn't supposed to bother you." Uncle. Tae-sung was this kid's uncle. Johnny hadn't known he had family beyond the criminal enterprise variety. "I'm not bothered," Johnny said carefully, also in Korean. "Who are you?" "Yoon Hana. I live with my aunt, but I visit Uncle sometimes." Hana stepped fully into the office, her eyes wide. "You're pregnant." Very observant. "My mom died having a baby. Me. That's why I live with Aunt Mi-jin instead of Uncle." Janae's throat tightened. This was the sister Tae-sung had lost. The guilt he carried. And here was her daughter, matter-of-fact about her mother's death, in the way only children who'd never known different could be. "I'm sorry about your mom," Janae said. Hana shrugged, but her eyes were sad. "I don't remember her. Uncle says she was brave. Aunt Mi-jin says she was stupid for getting pregnant without being married." "Your aunt sounds lovely." "She's not. She's mean. But Uncle says I have to be respectful anyway because she's family." Hana moved closer to Janny's desk, peering at the monitors. "What are you doing?" "Math. Very boring math." "Uncle does math too. He says numbers never lie, but people always do." "Your uncle is a smart man. He's sad a lot, but he doesn't show it. I can tell, though." Hana looked at Janae's belly with fascination. "Can I feel the baby kick?" Janae hesitated. She didn't know this kid. Didn't know if Tae-sung would approve of his niece getting attached to the pregnant accountant he was using for information. But Hana was looking at her with such hope, such innocent curiosity, that Janae couldn't bring herself to say no. "Sure, but she's not always kicking. She sleeps sometimes." Hana approached carefully, like Janae might spook. She placed her small hand on Janae's belly right where the baby had been doing somersaults an hour ago, and as if on cue, Janae's daughter kicked. Hana's face lit up like Christmas morning. She moved. She does that, a lot. Usually when I'm trying to sleep. "What's her name?" "I don't know yet. I haven't decided. You should name her something strong, like a warrior. Mom named me Hannah because it means flower, but Aunt Mi-jin says I'm too loud to be a flower." "I think loud flowers are the best kind," Janae said. Hana beamed. "I like you. You're nice. Most of Uncle's people are scary." "I'm not one of your uncle's people. I'm just visiting." "With a baby? For a long time?" "Maybe." The door opened again, and this time it was Tae-sung. He took in the scene, Hana with her hand on Janae's belly, both of them looking guilty, and his expression didn't change, but something in his eyes softened. "Hana-ya," he said gently, "didn't Aunt Mi-jin tell you not to bother Ms. Winters?" "She's not bothered. She said so." Hana turned to Janae for confirmation. "Right?" "She's not bothering me," Janae confirmed. "We were just talking." Tae-sung walked into the office, and Hana immediately ran to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. He hugged her back, and Janae saw a completely different person than the controlled, calculating man she'd been working with. This was an uncle who loved his niece, a man who'd lost his sister and was trying to be enough for the daughter she'd left behind. "The baby kicked," Hana announced. "It was so cool." "I'm sure it was." Tae-sung gently extracted himself from her hug. "But you have homework and Ms. Winters has work. Go find Seo Yun. She said she'd help you with your English homework." "But—" "Hana." The tone was gentle but firm. Hana sighed dramatically, the way only 8-year-olds could, and headed for the door. She paused at the threshold and looked back at Janai. "Can I come back tomorrow? To feel the baby again?" Janai glanced at Tae-sung. He gave the slightest nod. "Sure," Janae said, "if your uncle says it's okay." "He will. He likes you. I can tell." And then she was gone, leaving Janae and Tae-sung alone in the office. Tae-sung closed the door and leaned against it. "I apologize. Mi-jin was supposed to keep her occupied." It's fine. She's sweet. She's lonely. Mijin isn't warm, and I can't be there as much as I'd like. Because you're busy running a criminal empire? Something like that. Taesung moved to look at Janae's monitors. What have you found? Janae pulled up her latest spreadsheet. The Huang family is moving approximately 2 million USD every 2 weeks through their Singapore shell companies. The money comes from 3 sources: protection payments, loan interest, and what I think is smuggling revenue. It gets cleaned through legitimate investment funds, then redistributed back to Seoul through a network of smaller accounts. Smaller accounts owned by? Politicians, police officers, judges. They're paying off half the city. Janae clicked through to another screen. But here's the interesting part. There's one account that doesn't fit the pattern. It's receiving regular payments, 50,000 USD every month, but there's no corresponding outflow. The money just sits there. A reserve fund? Maybe. Or a personal account for someone high up. Someone who's skimming. Taesung's fingers tapped on the desk. Can you identify who owns it? Give me 2 days and access to banking records I definitely shouldn't have access to. You'll have it by tonight. He looked at her, his expression unreadable. You're good at this. I told you. Forensic accounting is my job. Most forensic accountants work for the government or corporations. They don't work for people like me. Most forensics? Accountants didn't get drugged and impregnated by mid-level criminals. Janae saved her work and leaned back in her chair. Can I ask you something? You can ask. I might not answer. Hana's mother, your sister. What happened to her? Taesung was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. She got involved with someone who promised her the world and disappeared when she got pregnant. I was too busy with family business to notice. She went into labor alone at home, and by the time anyone found her, he stopped. She bled out. The baby survived. She didn't. And you blame yourself? I should have been there. Should have protected her. Should have seen that the man she was with was using her. Sounds familiar, Janae said quietly. Taesung looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time since they'd met, she saw the full weight of what he carried. Guilt, grief, the desperate need to prevent history from repeating itself. That's why you helped me, Janae said, understanding clicking into place. Not just because I had information, because I reminded you of her. Partially. And the other part? The other part is that you're smart, resourceful, and exactly the kind of asset I need to damage the Huang family. The emotional motivation doesn't negate the practical one. You're very honest about using people. Would you prefer I lie? No? Janae rubbed her belly absently. I appreciate the honesty. It's refreshing after Ji-hoon. Park Ji-hoon is a coward who preys on vulnerable women. Don't compare me to him. I'm not. You're much more efficient about it. Taesung's lips twitched, almost a smile. You have a sharp tongue. It's a defense mechanism. My therapist back in Atlanta said I use humor to deflect from emotional vulnerability. Did it work? The therapy or the deflection? Either. Not particularly. Janae stretched, feeling her back crack. Your niece said you're sad a lot. Hana is perceptive. She said you hide it well. That's a survival skill in my line of work. Must be exhausting, hiding all the time. Taesung was quiet. Then, yes. The admission hung in the air between them. Janae realized this was the most honest conversation they'd had. No negotiations, no strategic positioning, just two people who'd both learned to survive by hiding their real selves, talking in a quiet office while a baby kicked and the world outside continued to be dangerous. I should get back to work, Janae said finally. Those banking records won't illegally access themselves. I'll have them sent to you tonight. Taesung moved toward the door, then paused. Hana can visit tomorrow, if you don't mind. I don't mind. She's good company. She likes you. That's rare. She doesn't trust easily. Smart kid. She gets it from her mother. Taesung opened the door. Dinner's at 7. Seo Yun will come get you. I can eat in my room. You'll eat with us. You're not a prisoner, remember? You're a colleague. Colleagues eat together. He left before Janae could argue. She turned back to her monitors, but her mind was elsewhere. On Hana's small hand on her belly, on Taesung's carefully controlled grief, on the fact that she was somehow becoming part of this strange, dysfunctional household of criminals and traumatized children and people who hid their sadness behind perfect facades. The baby kicked, and Janae pressed her hand to the spot. "We're in deep now, little girl," she whispered. "I hope I know what I'm doing." The baby kicked again. Janae took that as encouragement, even though it was probably just gas. That evening, Janae found herself at a dinner table with Tae-sung, Seo-yoon, Hana, and a woman who introduced herself as Aunt Mi-jin with all the warmth of a frozen fish. Mi-jin was in her early 40s, elegant in the way wealthy Korean women often were, and her eyes when they landed on Janae were full of barely disguised contempt. She didn't say anything overtly rude. Tae-sung's presence prevented that, but every polite question, "How are you settling in?" "Is the guest house comfortable?" was laced with subtle judgment. Hana, sitting next to Janae, kept kicking her under the table and making faces when Mi-jin wasn't looking. Janae had to bite her lip to keep from laughing. "So, Ms. Winters," Mi-jin said in Korean, her tone saccharine, "how long will you be staying with us?" "Until my work is finished," Janae replied, also in Korean. "And what work is that exactly?" "Tae-sung has been quite secretive." "Financial consulting." "How interesting. I didn't know Tae-sung needed financial consulting from—" Mi-jin's eyes flicked to Janny's belly. "Someone in your condition." "Mi-jin," Tae-sung said quietly, but there was steel in his voice. "Jay is my guest. You will treat her with respect." "Of course. I meant no offense." But her smile said otherwise. Hana kicked Janae under the table again, harder this time, and whispered in English, "Don't listen to her. She's jealous because Uncle likes you." "Hana," Korean at the table, Mi-jin snapped, "but Jae-eunny speaks English." "You will speak Korean. It's proper." Hana slumped in her seat, and Janae saw Tae-sung's jaw tighten. This was his life, mediating between his bitter sister-in-law and his lonely niece while running a criminal empire and trying to prevent anyone else he loved from dying. Suddenly, Janae's problems seemed a lot more manageable. After dinner, Hana begged to walk Janae back to the guest house. Tae-sung nodded permission, and they walked through the covered pathway together, Hana chattering about school and friends and how much she hated her English homework. "Uncle says I need to learn English because it's important for business," Honey said. "But it's so hard. All the rules are different from Korean." "English is confusing even for native speakers," Janae agreed. "If you want, I could help you, instead of Seo-yoon." Hana's face lit up. "Really?" "Sure. If you're—" "Uncle says it's okay. He will. He likes you. I told you." They reached the guest house, and Hana hugged Janae impulsively before running back toward the main house. Janae watched her go, feeling something warm and unfamiliar in her chest. She was getting attached to Hana. Maybe even to Tae-sung in some weird, complicated way that had nothing to do with the transactional nature of their arrangement. That was dangerous. Attachment was dangerous. But as Janae settled into bed that night, her daughter doing acrobatics in her belly, and the sound of classical music drifting from somewhere in the compound, she couldn't bring herself to care. For the first time in months, she felt like she was somewhere she could almost call home. Even if that home was a criminal's compound and the family she was joining was held together by guilt, grief, and necessity. It was still more than she had had yesterday. 2 weeks into her stay at the compound, Janae had fallen into a routine that felt almost normal. Mornings were spent working through financial records, tracing money that didn't want to be traced. Afternoons were Korean lessons with Tae-sung, who turned out to be a patient if demanding teacher. Evenings were dinner with whoever happened to be around, sometimes just her and Seo-yoon, sometimes the full household including Hana and the perpetually disapproving Mi-jin. Janae had learned to ignore Mi-jin's barbs. The woman resented everything: Janae's presence, Hana's attachment to her, the fact that Tae-sung treated Janae like an equal instead of a temporary inconvenience. But Mi-jin was stuck in the same trap as everyone else in this house. She needed Tae-sung's protection and money, which meant she had to play nice. Mostly. Hana had become a constant presence in Janae's life. The girl would show up after school, homework in hand, and work at the small table in Janae's office while Janae traced money trails. Sometimes Hana would ask questions about America or the baby, or why Janae's hair was so cool and curly. Sometimes she'd just sit there, quiet, like she was starved for adult attention that wasn't critical or absent. Janae understood. She'd been a lonely kid, too, after her dad died. Marcus had been there, but he'd been grieving just as hard. Sometimes you just needed someone to sit with you while you did your homework and not make everything complicated. It was a Thursday afternoon when everything shifted. Janae was deep in a particularly complex money trail, following $50,000 from Seoul through Singapore, Hong Kong, and somehow ending up in a real estate investment fund in Vancouver when her office door burst open. Not opened, burst. Seo Yoon stood in the doorway, and for the first time since Janae had met her, she looked rattled. "Your brother is at the gate," Seo Yoon said, "with 4 other soldiers. He's demanding to see you." Janae's stomach dropped. "Marcus is here?" "He says if you don't come out in 5 minutes, he's calling his commanding officer and reporting that a Korean national is holding an American citizen against her will." Shit. Janae stood up too fast, felt dizzy, grabbed the desk for balance. Shit. Mr. Yoon is handling it, but Marcus is stubborn and protective and probably thinks I'm being held hostage. Janae was already moving toward the door. "Where are they?" "Front gate. Mr. Yoon is there now." Janae half walked, half waddled through the compound. 7 months pregnant now, and her body was making sure she knew it. Her back hurt, her feet were swollen, and her baby daughter was apparently doing kickboxing training against her ribs. She reached the front gate to find exactly the scene she'd feared. Marcus, tall, muscular, in civilian clothes but radiating military bearing, stood facing Tae-sung across the threshold. Behind Marcus were 4 other guys, all clearly army, all clearly ready for a fight. Behind Tae-sung stood Seo Yoon and 2 men Janae didn't recognize but who had enforcer written all over them. "I'm not leaving until I see my sister," Marcus was saying, his voice hard. "And if you've hurt her—" "Marcus!" Everyone turned. Marcus's expression cycled through relief, anger, and confusion in about 2 seconds. "Jay?" He took in her appearance, the pregnancy belly, the comfortable clothes, the fact that she looked healthier than she had in months. "What the hell is going on?" "I'm fine. I'm safe. You need to stand down before this turns into an international incident." "Stand down? Jay, you disappeared. You stopped answering my texts except for 1-word responses. I went to your Gosiwon and you were gone." Marcus's eyes flickered to Tae-sung. "And then I find out you're staying with some businessman who has ties to—" "Marcus, not here." "No, we're doing this here. Who is this guy? Why are you living in his compound? And why didn't you tell me?" Janae looked at Tae-sung, who was watching the exchange with his usual unreadable expression, then back at her brother, who looked like he was about 3 seconds from doing something stupid and military. "Can we talk?" Janae asked Marcus. "Alone?" "Not until I know you're actually safe and not being coerced into saying that." "I'm not being coerced. I'm here voluntarily. And if you don't calm down, you're going to make this situation a lot worse for both of us." Marcus's jaw tightened, but he nodded. He turned to his army buddies. "Wait here. If I'm not back in 15 minutes, you'll be back in 15 minutes, Janae interrupted, because I'm going to explain everything and you're going to listen like a reasonable human being." She walked through the gate. Tae-sung stepped aside to let her pass, and led Marcus to a bench in the courtyard garden, far enough from everyone else that they could talk privately. The army guys stayed at the gate, watching. Seo Yoon and the enforcers stayed on their side, also watching. It was the world's most tense family reunion. Janae sat down on the bench with a grunt. Marcus sat next to her, his whole body rigid with tension. "Talk," he said. "Jihoon found me," Janae said quietly. 3 weeks ago. He was getting close. I was running out of places to hide, and She paused, trying to figure out how to explain this without making it sound insane. "I accidentally contacted someone who could help." "Accidentally contacted." Marcus's voice was flat. "Jay, that man is connected to organized crime. I did research. Yoon Security Consulting is a front. I know what he is. I'm not stupid, Marcus." "Then why are you here?" "Because Jihoon works for people who are worse. Because the authorities can't protect me. Because I have information that makes me valuable to some people and dead to others, and I chose the people who at least want me alive." Marcus stared at her. "Information. What kind of information?" "Financial records, money trails, evidence of money laundering and smuggling." Janae met his eyes. "I've been building a case against Jihoon's organization for months, and when I realized I couldn't go to the police because they're on the payroll, I made a different choice. You made a deal with a criminal. I made a deal with someone who could actually protect me. Yes." "Jay." Marcus ran his hand over his face. "Do you hear yourself? You're 7 months pregnant, living in a crime lord's compound, working for him. I'm not working for him. I'm working with him. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you traded one dangerous man for another. Janae felt anger flare in her chest. Taesung hasn't drugged me, hasn't assaulted me, hasn't abandoned me. He's given me a safe place to stay, medical care, and the resources to fight back against the people who hurt me. So yeah, Marcus, there's a difference. He's using you. And I'm using him. It's mutual. It's a partnership. It's dangerous. Everything is dangerous. Being pregnant and alone in Seoul was dangerous. Hiding from Ji-hoon was dangerous. At least here I have some control. At least here I'm not running. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. I've been going crazy, Jay. Thinking you were in trouble. Thinking I'd failed you like I failed Dad. You didn't fail Dad. Dad died in Afghanistan because of an IED. That's not on you. And if something happens to you, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm safer here than I've been in months. You're living with criminals. I know, but they're criminals who need me alive and functional. That's more than Ji-hoon ever needed. Marcus looked toward the gate where Taesung was still standing, watching them with that calculating gaze. I don't trust him. You don't have to. I do. Do you? Really? Jenai thought about the past 2 weeks, about Taesung teaching her Korean with patience she didn't know he possessed, about the way he treated Hannah, gentle, protective, trying, to be enough for a girl who'd lost her mother, about the way he'd kept every promise he'd made, even the small ones. Yeah, she said. I do. Marcus shook his head, but some of the tension had left his shoulders. This is insane. Welcome to my life. If he hurts you, he won't. If he does, I don't care what kind of connections he has. You'll do nothing because you're smart and you're not going to start an international incident over your pregnant sister who is fine. Janae put her hand on Marcus's arm. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he sighed. You look good. Healthier than the last time I saw you. I'm eating 3 meals a day and sleeping in an actual bed. It's amazing what basic needs being met can do for a person. And the baby? She's fine, growing like crazy. Doctor says everything looks normal. She? Yeah, I'm having a girl. Marcus's expression softened completely. A niece. A niece who's going to need her uncle around, so you can't go starting fights with crime lords, okay? I'm not making any promises. Marcus. Fine, I won't start fights with crime lords, but I want to check on you, regularly. And if anything feels wrong, if you need to leave, you call me immediately. Deal. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Marcus said, Does Mom know? About the pregnancy? Yeah. She said I was an embarrassment and haven't talked to her since. Marcus stopped, clearly trying to find a diplomatic way to say their mother was being unreasonable. She's Mom. I stopped expecting her to be supportive a long time ago. Janae stood up slower than she'd like. You should probably go before your army friends decide to storm the compound. Marcus stood too. He pulled her into a hug, careful of her belly. I love you, Jay, even when you make absolutely insane life choices. I love you too, even when you show up with an armed escort and nearly cause a diplomatic incident. That was one time. It was literally today. Marcus pulled back, smiling despite himself. Call me. Actually call me. Not one-word texts. I will, I promise. They walked back to the gate together. Taesung was still there, Seo-yun beside him. Marcus stopped in front of Taesung, and for a moment Jenny thought he might actually throw a punch. Instead, Marcus said in careful Korean, If anything happens to my sister, I will find you. I don't care who you are or what connections you have. She's my family. Taesung replied in English, his tone even. She's under my protection. That means something in my world. I don't break my word. See that you don't? They stared at each other for another tense moment. Then Marcus turned to Janae. I'll call you this weekend. I'll answer. Marcus and his army friends left. Janae watched them go, feeling drained and relieved and still slightly terrified that Marcus had almost started a war. After the gate closed, Taesung turned to her. Your brother is protective. That's putting it mildly. He threatened me. He threatens everyone who gets close to me. It's kind of his thing. I respect it. Family loyalty is important. Janae looked at him surprised. You're not angry? He's a soldier protecting his sister. I'd be concerned if he wasn't threatening people. Tae-sung started walking back toward the main house, and Janae fell into step beside him. But he's right to be cautious. You should be cautious, too. I am cautious. Are you? Or are you just tired of running? Janae didn't have an answer for that. Because he was right, she was tired of running. Tired of being scared. Tired of feeling like the ground was going to drop out from under her at any moment. I found the account owner, she said instead, changing the subject. The one skimming from the Huang family. Tae-sung stopped walking. Who? Huang Tae-jin, the head of the family himself. He's been moving money into personal accounts in the Caymans for the past 3 years. Approximately $2 million USD total. He's stealing from his own organization. Looks like it. Either building a retirement fund or planning to disappear. Either way, it's leverage. Tae-sung's fingers tapped against his leg. That thinking gesture Janae had learned to recognize. If his people knew he was skimming, it would undermine his authority, maybe even get him killed, depending on how loyal his lieutenants are. This is good work, Jay. It's what you're paying me for. I'm not paying you. You're here voluntarily, remember? Right. I'm voluntarily working for a crime lord while 7 months pregnant. Totally normal life choices. Tae-sung almost smiled. Your brother called them insane. My brother is not wrong. They reached Janae's office and she paused at the door. Thank you for not killing Marcus when he showed up with half a platoon. I don't kill people for being protective of their family. I'd be a hypocrite if I did. Still, thank you. Tae-sung nodded, then, unexpectedly, he said, You should call him more, your brother. He's worried about you. I know. Family is important. Don't waste the time you have with him. There was something in his voice, grief, regret, the weight of his sister's death. Janae understood. He was thinking about Juan, about all the time he'd wasted on business instead of protecting her. I'll call him, Janae said, every week, I promise. Good. Tae-sung turned to leave, then paused. Your Korean is improving, by the way. You almost kept up with your brother's conversation. You were listening? I'm always listening. It's how I stay alive. He left before Janae could respond. She went into her office, sat down at her desk, and pulled out her phone. Jay, I'm sorry I scared you. I'm okay, I promise. Marcus, you better be. Because if I have to storm a crime lord's compound to rescue you, it's going to create so much paperwork. Jay, I'll try to avoid making you fill out paperwork. Marcus, appreciated. Love you, sis. Jay, love you too. Janae set down her phone and placed her hand on her belly. The baby kicked strong and steady. Your Uncle Marcus is dramatic, she told her daughter, but he means well. You'll like him. Assuming we all survive the next few months. The baby kicked again. Janae took that as agreement. Or possibly indigestion. With pregnancy, it was hard to tell the difference. 3 weeks later, Janae was 32 weeks pregnant and starting to understand why people said the 3rd trimester was miserable. Her back hurt constantly. Her feet looked like balloons. She couldn't sleep for more than 2 hours without needing to pee. And the baby, who Janae had started calling the gymnast in her head, seemed to think 3 a.m. was the perfect time for elaborate tumbling routines. But despite all that, Janae was content. Maybe even happy in a weird, complicated way. She'd settled into life at the compound. Her Korean had improved to the point where she could follow most conversations and occasionally surprise people with her fluency. Her work-tracking Huang operations had yielded enough intelligence that Tae-sung had started making strategic moves against them. Nothing obvious, just small disruptions that would compound over time. And Hana had basically adopted her as a surrogate aunt/big sister, showing up every day after school to do homework and talk about everything and nothing. Janae had even started to feel safe, which should have been her first warning that something was about to go wrong. It was a Friday evening. Janae was in her office finishing up a money trail that led through a shipping company in Busan when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. She'd been getting them for the past week, unknown calls and texts that she ignored because they were almost certainly Ji-hoon trying new burner phones. But this text was different. I know where you are. I know who you're with. You think Yoon Tae-sung can protect you? He can't. Not from me. Not from what's coming. Janae's blood went cold. She screenshotted the message and immediately called Tae-sung. He answered on the first ring. Jay? I got another text. From Ji-hoon. He knows I'm here. Silence. Then, forward it to me. I'm coming to your office. Janae sent the screenshot and waited, her heart pounding. The baby kicked, sensing her stress, and Janae pressed her hand to her belly. It's okay, little girl. We're okay. She wasn't sure if she was lying. Tae-sung arrived within 2 minutes, Seo-yoon right behind him. He read the message, his expression darkening. He's bluffing, Seo-yoon said immediately. There's no way he knows the exact location. We've been careful. Careful isn't the same as invisible. Tae-sung looked at Janae. Have you left the compound at all in the past month? No, you said not to, so I didn't. Has anyone visited besides your brother? Just Hana and Mi-jin, but she's always here anyway. Tae-sung's jaw tightened. Mi-jin? You think she told him? Janae asked. I think Mi-jin resents your presence and would be very happy to see you gone. Whether she'd go so far as to contact Park Ji-hoon? He pulled out his own phone. Seo-yoon, find Mi-jin. Bring her to my office. Now. Seo-yoon left immediately. Tae-sung looked at Janae. Stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except me or Seo-yoon. What are you going to do? Find out if we have a problem. And if we do, eliminate it. The way he said eliminate made Janae's stomach turn. Tae-sung, if Mi-jin did tell him, then she put you, Hana, and this entire household at risk. There are consequences for that. She's Hana's aunt. Hana's only family besides you. She's also a bitter woman who sees you as a threat to her security. People do desperate things when they feel threatened. Tae-sung moved toward the door. Lock this. I'll come back when I know more. He left. Janae locked the door and sat down at her desk, trying to calm her racing heart. The baby was doing somersaults now, probably responding to Janae's stress hormones. I know, Janae muttered, rubbing her belly. Mama's scared too. But we're going to be okay. We have to be okay. 20 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. Jay, it's me. Tae-sung's voice. Janae unlocked the door and let him in. His expression was grim. Mi-jin? Janae asked. Claims she didn't tell anyone, but her phone records show 3 calls to an unknown number over the past 2 weeks. Each call lasted less than a minute. Tae-sung's voice was cold. She's lying. What are you going to do? She's confined to her quarters until I decide. Hana is staying in the main house tonight. Does Hana know? Not yet. I'll tell her her aunt is sick. She doesn't need to know the truth. Janae sat down heavily. This is my fault. If I hadn't come here, this is Park Ji-hoon's fault, and Mi-jin's, not yours. Tae-sung pulled up a chair and sat across from her. But we need to plan for the possibility that he's coming. And soon. What kind of plan? The kind that keeps you alive and makes sure Ji-hoon regrets ever touching you. There was something in his voice. Not just anger, but something deeper. Something personal. Janae looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the same expression she'd seen when he talked about his sister. The guilt. The determination to not fail again. You can't save everyone, Tae-sung, Janae said quietly. I can save you. Can you? Because right now it feels like I've just painted a target on your back. On Hana's back, on everyone in this house. The target was already there. You didn't create this situation. Ji-hoon did. The Hwang family did. You're just caught in the middle. And you're choosing to stand between me and them. Why? I gave you the information you wanted. You could just let me go. Let me deal with this myself. Tae-sung was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful, measured. Moment you drugged her mother and disappeared. Ji-hoon's eyes widened. He looked at Janae. You told him? I told him everything, Janae said. Every transaction, every shell company, every dirty deal you've been running for the Hwang family. You're done, Ji-hoon. You were done the moment you decided I was disposable. Ji-hoon tried to struggle, but Tae-sung's grip tightened. You have 2 choices. You leave Seoul tonight and never come back. Or I kill you right here and let Jay watch. You can't. I can. I will. Choose. Seo Yun appeared in the doorway, gun drawn, blood on her sleeve but standing steady. Mr. Yun, Huang soldiers are retreating. We've secured the compound. Casualties? 2 of ours injured, 3 of theirs dead. The rest ran. Taesung nodded, not taking his eyes off Ji-hoon. Take him to the gate, give him a car. If he's still in Seoul by sunrise, kill him. Understood? Seo Yun grabbed Ji-hoon and hauled him up. He tried to look back at Janae, but Seo Yun pushed him forward. Move. They left, and suddenly it was just Janae and Taesung in the bathroom, surrounded by broken glass and the smell of gunpowder and fear. Taesung turned to Janae, and she saw blood on his knuckles, a cut on his cheek, the careful control starting to crack. Are you hurt? He asked. Janae shook her head. She couldn't speak, couldn't process what had just happened. Taesung crossed to her in 2 strides and pulled her up carefully, his hands gentle despite the violence they'd just committed. You're okay? You're safe? You came back, Janae whispered. You could have let Seo Yun handle it. You came back for me? Of course I came back. Did you think I wouldn't? And that's when Janae started crying. Not delicate tears, but ugly, gasping sobs that shook her whole body. All the fear and stress and terror of the past months came pouring out, and she couldn't stop it. Taesung pulled her against his chest, one hand cradling the back of her head, the other spread protectively over her belly, where the baby was still kicking frantically. You're safe, he repeated. I've got you, both of you. Janae buried her face in his shirt and cried until she couldn't cry anymore, and Taesung held her through all of it, solid and steady and real. When she finally pulled back, exhausted and embarrassed, Taesung wiped her face with surprising gentleness. I'm sorry, Janae said. I don't usually. You were terrified. You're allowed to cry. I'm supposed to be tough, competent, not falling apart in bathrooms. You are tough and competent, but you're also 7 months pregnant and you just had a gun pointed at you by the man who assaulted you. Crying is the appropriate response. Taesung's hand was still on her belly, and the baby kicked against his palm. He smiled, a real smile, small but genuine. She's strong, like her mother. She's terrified, like her mother. Then we'll protect her. Both of us. Together. Together. The word hung between them, weighted with meaning Janae wasn't ready to examine, but she nodded anyway. Because together was better than alone. Together might be the only thing that kept them both alive. The compound was a mess, broken glass in the courtyard, bullet holes in the walls, blood on the stone pathway that Seo Yun's people were already cleaning with practiced efficiency. This wasn't the first time Taesung's home had been attacked, and Janae realized with uncomfortable clarity that it probably wouldn't be the last. This was his world. Violence and control and the constant threat of someone trying to take what was his. And she was part of it now, whether she'd intended to be or not. Janae sat in the main house while a doctor, different from her regular one, this one clearly used to treating gunshot wounds, checked her over. Blood pressure elevated but not dangerous. Baby's heartbeat strong and steady. No signs of premature labor, which was apparently a concern when pregnant women experienced extreme stress. You're lucky, the doctor said in English, packing up his supplies. Both of you, try to rest. Avoid any more gunfights if possible. I'll put it on my to-do list, Janae muttered. The doctor smiled grimly and left. Seo Yun appeared in the doorway, her arm now properly bandaged. How bad is it? Janae asked. Graze. I've had worse. Seo Yun sat down in the chair across from her. Ji-hoon is gone. We put him in a car with one of our people. He'll be driven to Busan and put on a boat to China. If he's smart, he'll stay there. And if he's not smart, then he dies. Mr. Yun made that very clear. Janae rubbed her belly, feeling the baby shift. What about the Huang family? They sent those soldiers. They're not just going to forget this. No, but we dealt them a significant blow tonight. 3 dead, several injured, and they failed to retrieve you. That's a loss they'll feel. Seo Yun leaned forward. And Mr. Yun has been making strategic moves based on your intelligence. The Huang family is weaker than they were a month ago. Confused. Fighting among themselves over that missing money you found. The skimming. Yes. Several of Huang Taejin's lieutenants are questioning his leadership. Some are even talking about breaking away, forming their own operations. Seo Yun smiled, sharp and dangerous. You did that? Your work? You destabilized an entire criminal organization with spreadsheets? Johnny didn't feel proud, She felt tired and scared and completely out of her depth. Where's Hana? Asleep. Mr. Yoon is with her. She was frightened by the noise, but she doesn't know what really happened. We told her there was an attempted robbery. Does she believe that? Hana is 8. She believes what her uncle tells her because the alternative is too frightening. Seo Yun stood. Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll assess damage and make plans. Tonight, just breathe. After Seo Yun left, Janae sat in the quiet room and tried to do exactly that. Just breathe. But her mind kept replaying the moment Ji-hoon had stood in the bathroom doorway with a gun, the moment Tae-sung had appeared like some kind of avenging angel, the way he'd held her afterwards, solid and warm and alive. She was falling for him. She'd been trying not to, but it was happening anyway. And that was terrifying in a completely different way than guns and criminals and midnight attacks, because Yoon Tae-sung was dangerous, not just to his enemies, but to her, to the careful walls she'd built around her heart after Ji-hoon, to the independence she'd fought so hard to maintain. But he was also kind to his niece, patient when teaching her Korean, honest about his motivations even when honesty made him look bad. And he'd risked his life tonight multiple times to keep her safe. That meant something, even if Janae didn't want it to. She must have fallen asleep in the chair because she woke to someone gently shaking her shoulder. Tae-sung stood over her, looking exhausted but unharmed. Come on, he said quietly. You can't sleep in a chair. It's not good for your back. I'm fine. You're 7 months pregnant and you just survived an attack. You're not fine. Let me help you to the guest house. Janny let him pull her up and they walked slowly through the covered pathway. The compound was quiet now, the damage hidden by darkness, the blood cleaned away, the violence temporarily paused. At the guest house door, Janny stopped. Thank you, for tonight, for coming back for me. I'll always come back for you, Tae-sung said simply, like it was obvious, like there was no other option. Why? Because you're important. To your operation against the Huang family? To me. He said it quietly, but with absolute certainty. You're important to me, Jay. You and your daughter. I'm not going to let anything happen to either of you. Janae looked up at him, this dangerous, complicated man who'd somehow become the safest person in her life. I'm scared. Of what? Of this. Of you. Of the fact that I'm starting to care about you, and I don't know if that's smart or just another terrible decision in a long line of terrible decisions. Tae-sung's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. I can't promise you safety. Not complete safety. My world doesn't work that way. But I can promise you honesty and loyalty, and that I will do everything in my power to protect you. That's not a love confession. No, it's not. His eyes were dark and serious. I don't do love confessions. I do action. I do commitment. I do choosing you every single day and making sure you know it. That might be better than a love confession. It's all I have to offer. Johnny stood on her toes, as much as she could with her pregnancy belly in the way, and kissed him. It was brief, chaste, probably a terrible idea, but it felt right. When she pulled back, Tae-sung looked surprised, then pleased, then carefully neutral again. Get some sleep, he said. We'll talk more tomorrow. Will we? Or will you go back to being the controlled crime lord who doesn't show emotions? Probably that. But you're learning to read me anyway, so it won't matter. He was right. She was learning to read him. The finger tapping when he was thinking. The slight softening of his eyes when Hana was around. The way his jaw tightened when he was angry but trying not to show it. She was learning him. And he was letting her. That was terrifying and wonderful in equal measure. 2 weeks later, Janae went into labor. It was early, 34 weeks instead of 40, but the doctor assured her that babies born at 34 weeks usually did fine with proper medical care, and Tae-sung had arranged for the best medical care money could buy. The labor was long and painful and completely surreal. Seo Yoon stayed with her for the first few hours, coaching her through contractions with surprising gentleness. Hana came by between contractions to hold her hand and tell her she was brave, and Tae-sung was there the entire time, solid and steady and refusing to leave even when Janae told him he didn't have to stay. I'm staying, he said firmly. We're partners, remember? Partners. The word had evolved over the past month. It meant more now than just a business arrangement. It meant family. After 18 hours of labor, Zora Huan Yoon was born. 4 pounds, 6 ounces. tiny and perfect and screaming her lungs out like she had opinions about being evicted from her comfortable womb. The nurses cleaned her and checked her and pronounced her healthy despite being premature. And then they placed her in Johnny's arms, and Johnny looked down at her daughter and felt her entire world shift. "Hey, little girl," she whispered. "You're early, but you're here. You're safe." Zora stopped crying and blinked up at her with unfocused dark eyes. She had a cap of black hair and Jenny's nose and absolutely no resemblance to Jihoon that Janae could see. Thank God. Taesung stood beside the bed looking at Zora with an expression Janae had never seen on his face before. Wonder. And something that looked like hope. "She's beautiful," he said quietly. "She's tiny. She's perfect." Hana burst into the room. Someone must have told her the baby was born, and scrambled up onto the bed to see. "Is that her? Is that my sister?" "She's not technically your sister," Janae started to say, but Taesung cut her off. "Yes, that's your sister, Zora." Hana's eyes went wide. "You named her after Mom." "The middle name is after your mom," Janae confirmed. "Zora Hwan, strong and beautiful, like both of them." Hana looked at Taesung, then at Janae, then at the baby, and then she very carefully placed her hand on Zora's tiny head. "Hi, little sister. I'm your big sister Hana. I'm going to teach you everything, and I'm going to protect you. Always." Johnny felt tears streaming down her face. Taesung's hand found hers and squeezed. They were a family, broken and strange, and held together by choice rather than blood, but a family nonetheless. 3 months later, Janae sat in her office, now expanded and with better equipment, tracing money for Taesung's increasingly legitimate business operations. He'd been gradually transitioning away from the purely criminal enterprises, using the intelligence Janae had gathered to negotiate favorable terms with former enemies and consolidate power in legal ways. It would take years to go fully legitimate, maybe decades, but it was happening. Zora was asleep in a bassinet beside Janae's desk, growing fast and healthy despite her early arrival. Hana was at the table doing homework, occasionally looking up to make faces at the baby. This was Jani's life now. Accountant for a former crime lord, adopted aunt to a lonely 8-year-old, mother to a daughter who had no idea how complicated her origin story was, and partner, in every sense of the word, to Yoon Taesung. They hadn't defined the relationship yet, hadn't put labels on what they were to each other, but Taesung slept in the guest house most nights now, curled around Janae with one hand protective over Zora's bassinet. They ate meals together, made decisions together, built something that looked like a future. It wasn't perfect. There were still threats, still rivals, still moments when Janae remembered that the man she loved, and yes, she loved him, even if she hadn't said it out loud, had blood on his hands and always would, but it was hers. This strange, complicated, dangerous life was hers, and she'd chosen it. The office door opened and Taesung walked in with Marcus. They'd developed a wary respect over the past few months. Marcus still didn't trust Taesung completely, but he trusted that Taesung wouldn't let anything happen to Janae or Zora. "Uncle Marcus!" Hana jumped up and hugged him. She'd adopted Marcus too, declaring that if Zora was her sister, then Marcus was her uncle. Marcus hugged her back, smiling. "Hey, kiddo, how's the English homework?" "Hard, but Jay Unnie is helping me later." Marcus looked at Janae, then at Zora sleeping peacefully, then at Taesung standing protectively close to both of them. "You look happy, sis." "I am," Janie said, and she meant it. "I really am." "Good, because if you weren't, I'd have to do something dramatic, and dramatic is exhausting." Taesung almost smiled. "Noted." After Marcus left, with promises to visit next week and bring Zora the inappropriate amount of baby clothes he kept buying, Janae looked at Taesung. "We should talk," she said. "About?" "About what happens next, long term, because I can't keep living in the guest house indefinitely, and Zora's going to need stability, and we need to figure out what we are to each other beyond business partners who occasionally sleep together." Taesung sat down across from her. "What do you want to be?" "I want to be a family, a real one, not just people living in the same compound because it's convenient." "We are a family." "Are we?" "Because you've never said it, never defined it, and I need to know if this is real or if I'm just convenient." Taesung reached across the desk and took her hand. "You were never convenient. You were terrifying. You walked into my life pregnant and desperate, and you turned everything upside down. You made me want things I thought I'd given up on. Safety, peace, a family that wasn't built on violence. But I'm still who I am. I still do what I do. And I need to know if you can live with that. Really live with it. Not just tolerate it because you have nowhere else to go. Janae thought about the past 6 months, about the fear and the violence and the moments when she'd questioned every choice that led her here. But she also thought about Tai-Sing teaching Hana to ride a bike in the courtyard, about the way he held Zora like she was made of glass, about the patient Korean lessons and the shared meals and the quiet moments when he let his guard down enough to be just a man instead of a crime lord. I can live with it, she said, as long as you keep your promise to go legitimate, as long as Zora grows up knowing her father chose to build something better. Her father, Taesung repeated quietly. You're the one who's been there. You're the one who held my hand through labor. You're the one who gets up at 3 a.m. when she's crying. DNA doesn't make you a father. Choice does. Wasn't that what you told me? Yes. So, are you choosing to be her father? Are you choosing us? Taesung stood, walked around the desk, and pulled Janae up into his arms. He kissed her, properly this time, not the chaste kiss from months ago, but something deeper and more meaningful. When he pulled back, he said, I choose you, both of you, and Hana. I choose this family, every day. For as long as you'll have me. That's going to be a long time. I'm not good at quitting things. Good, neither am I. Zora chose that moment to wake up and start crying. Taesung picked her up automatically, settling her against his shoulder and bouncing her gently while she fussed. Janae watched them and felt something settle in her chest. Peace. Or close enough. She'd sent a wrong text message 6 months ago, ended up in a crime lord's compound, built a life out of desperation and necessity and unexpected connection, and somehow, impossibly, it had become exactly where she was supposed to be. Hey, Taesung, Janny said. Thank you. For saying you wanted me that first night. For bringing me here. For choosing us. Taesung looked at her over Zora's tiny head. Best wrong number I ever received. Hana laughed from the table. That's so weird. You guys are so weird. Yeah, Janae agreed, smiling. We really are. But weird was okay. Weird was safe. Weird was home. And after everything she'd been through, home was exactly what Janae needed. The story wasn't over. There would be more challenges, more threats, more moments when she questioned her choices.